What's going on, guys? Blood Armor Cards in the house, and now I've been in the Yu-Gi-Oh game for a while now. I was looking through some of the archetypes that are coming out in the Grand Creators booster box, and I realized that the Rite of Armasir and the whole Adventure token archetype has potential. So I was looking through TCG, and I was like, oh my god, some of these cards are expensive as hell. And so I wanted to go through and just see if these cards are worth it or we should wait on the price. So the first card I want to take a look at is called the Rite of Armasir, and in my opinion, this card is probably what the entire archetype will revolve around. So its effect is if you control no adventurer token, special summon one adventurer token. It's a fairy earth, level 4, 2000 attack, 2000 defense. And just a side note, with this entire deck, what you need is you need to have the adventure token on the field, and then it lets you special summon a bunch of monsters, and then it lets you use all those monsters' effects, which is a lot of those effects are very good, and they're good searchers, and they're good negates, and whatnot, but they only work if you have the adventure token on the field. So my big thing with this deck is you can kaiju the token, right? So let's see how people can get around that. So then if you do not control Fateful Adventure, you can place one Fateful Adventure from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. You cannot activate the effects of monsters on the field the turn you activate this card, except special summon monsters. You can only activate one Rite of Armasir per turn, and right now this card goes for about 50 to 60 bucks. So that's on you. This for sure is a 3 of in this deck, but the fact that it goes for 50 to 60 bucks right now, I would definitely recommend that you wait. Next, we're looking at this card, Water Enchantress of the Temple. This is the searcher for the last card that we just saw. Its effect is if you control an adventurer token, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish this card from your hand or graveyard. You can add one Rite of Armasir from your deck or graveyard to your hand. If you control an adventure token, you can place one field spell that mentions adventure token from your deck face up in your field zone, and you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So this card is also a 3 of, in my opinion. You need to banish this in order to add your card that summons the token, and then from there you can pop off all your combos. And then if you happen to have the token already on the field, you can use this card's effect, summon it, and then add a field spell. So this is a 3 of as well, but it's pretty pricey as well. This is a $60 to $70 card. So I would also wait on this one. So up next we have this monster. It's called Wandering Griffin Rider. Its effect is during the main phase, if you control no monsters or control an adventurer token, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and when a card or effect is activated while you control an adventurer token, you can shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, negate that activation. If you do, destroy that card. And you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. This is a super rare rarity. It is a Wind-Winged Beast monster, level 7, 2000 attack, 2800 defense. At least this card is cheap. That's my one thing I would say. So the cheapest you're gonna get this card is about $3, $3.50. Most expensive is about $8. So that's a pretty big card. That's a pretty big range for something this cheap. I would also like to point out that in order to use this thing's effect, you need to have the token on the field, just like everything else. So the big hole I see in this deck so far, this archetype, is if you get rid of the token, this deck can't really do anything. But this archetype does have a really easy way of recycling the token. So up next is this equip spell. It's called Draco the Writable Dragon. Its effect is equip to only a monster you control, so you can't equip to your opponent's monsters. You can only control one Draco the Writable Dragon. You can only use each of the following effects of Draco the Writable Dragon once per turn. Well, this card is equipped to a non-effect monster. You can target one card your opponent controls, return to the hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one adventurer token you control, equip this card to that target. So the tokens itself obviously don't have an effect. So you'd want to equip this to the token just to get the effects off. And then if this goes to the graveyard, let's say it gets harpied, feather dusted, or whatever, you can target the token and then bring it back. So not a bad effect. I just think that equip cards are a little not great, if I could, without finding a better lack of words at least. Yeah, that's about $1. So for about $1, it's not too bad. Up next, we're looking at the continuous spell card called Faithful Adventure. Its effect is once per turn, the first time a monster you control equipped with an equipped spell will be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. Okay, so that's pretty decent synergy with the last card we just saw. And secondly, its effect is you can only use each effect of the following. You can only use each of the following effects of Faithful Adventure once per turn. And then during your main phase, you can add one monster that mentions adventurer token from your deck to your hand, then send one card from your hand to the graveyard. Okay, so this is very good because I'm pretty sure all the monsters mention adventurer token. Yeah, so because the entire archetype revolves around having that token on the field, all the cards mention that token. So what I would do is I would use this card's effect to add Water Enchantress of the Temple, and then after I've added Water Enchantress of the Temple, you could discard Water Enchantress to add Rite of Armasir to your hand. And then after that's added, you can use that to summon the token and then pop off all your combos. So this also is a 3-of in this deck, so that explains why it's also so expensive. You can get it anywhere from 30 to 35 bucks. So up next is the field spell for this archetype. It's called Forest of Lost Flowers. Its effect is monsters you control equipped with Starlight Pepleon are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, so it's more synergy with the equip effects. Once per turn, when your adventure token destroys a monster by battle, you can draw one card. Okay, that's pretty decent draw power, but the fact that the tokens don't have too much attack, well, I guess equip cards could work around that. So if you draw, you can draw a card once per turn during your main phase. If the previous effect was activated this turn, you can add one field spell that mentions adventure token from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except Forest of the Lost Flowers. Yeah, so I know that this archetype has a couple of different field spells, so not bad. One field spell adds the other one to your hand, and then you can use them as you please. There's a lot of searchability in this deck, and based on this, a decent amount of draw power too. So not bad. So next, we're looking at the card that was mentioned on the last field spell card. This card is Starlight Pepleon. Its effect is equipped to only a monster you control. You can only control one Starlight Pepleon. Monsters your opponent control lose 500 attack for each monster you control with a different name that mentions adventure token. Okay, so the fact that you can make them lose all that attack is pretty good, because if you control a single adventure token, then you can pretty much summon your entire hand of monsters. So I could see this doing a decent amount of attack reduction. And this card's second effect is, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one adventure token you control, equip this card to that target. Okay, so pretty decent recycling power. Just like the other equip card that we saw earlier. And it's about $1, just like the last field spell was. Not too bad. So up next, we have this trap card. It's called Thunder Discharge. Its effect is, if you control an adventure token, you can target one monster you control, equipped with an equip card that mentions adventure token. Destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible with attack less than or equal to that monster. Then you can equip one equip spell that mentions adventure token from your hand or graveyard to one monster you control. Then you can only activate one Thunder Discharge per turn. Okay, so the first effect I think is very situational. So most likely you will have a lot of instances where you have adventure token, and you will also have an equip card on the field, just because we've seen a couple of them, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I think this, I would much rather run a Raigeki than this card, just because Raigeki works in any situation, and this is a trap card, so I'd have to wait for my opponent's turn anyway in order to do it, and I wouldn't be able to capitalize on any combinations. But I do like its second effect, is that you can equip one equip spell card that mentions adventure token from your hand or graveyard to a monster you control. However, most of the equip cards already bring themselves back from the graveyard, so don't know how great this one is. That explains why it's about 84 cents. Let's see. Yep, 84 to 89 cents. So this card, cheap. So up next, we're looking at this monster. It's a Fire Warrior effect monster. Level 4, 2300 attack, 1000 defense. It's called Magikor, Warrior of the Relics. Its effect is, you cannot attack unless you control an adventure token, alright, which is usually effects dependent on existence of other monsters aren't that good. But so far, this archetype really feels like they could do something with this. And so you can only use each effect of the following effects of Magikor, Warrior of the Relics once per turn. If you control an adventure token, you can special summon this card from your hand, just like the rest of them, okay? And at the end of the battle phase, if your monster that mentions adventure token battles, you can set one trap that mentions adventure token directly from your deck. Okay, so this makes that last trap card we were looking at a little more viable, actually. So Raigeki is kind of hard to search, and I don't know anyways off the top of my head, but that trap card, now that you can search it, it's a pretty good combination just to get rid of all your opponent's monsters. That's pretty good. The next trap card we have is called Breath of Resurrection. So its effect is, if you control an adventurer token, special summon up to 2 monsters from your hand and or graveyard with different names, but banish them when they leave the field. Then you can equip one equip spell that mentions adventurer token From your hand or graveyard to one monster you control, you can only activate one Breath of Resurrection per turn. This is a pretty good card. This would be like unstoppable if it was a spell card, but it's a trap card, so I can see why it's a little bit cheaper. It's about $3.49, $3.50. Just the fact that you could special summon these tokens and then you can special summon an equipped spell card. That's pretty good. Alright guys, so obviously you can get certain cards in this set in Collector's Rare as well. So for example, you got Rite of Armasir, correct Collector's Rare, but this is going to be $100 and basically $70 card. So that's why I'm skipping those, just to be not to be redundant. And so basically my summary of this deck is, this is pretty decent. I think it's a pretty decent deck, but I think they don't have enough protection for the token that's on the field. So if you can get rid of the token, it kind of you should be, on your turn, you should be able to do a lot of different things. And the deck can't really do anything about it. So the 3 cards that were super expensive, I would definitely wait on those. But all the cards that we saw that were medium priced to even like $1 or less, I would definitely recommend picking those up just to check them out. But obviously the price on this entire archetype is going to depend on if it's meta relevant or not. So if people take it to nationals or they take it to tournaments and they're winning games and they're winning tournaments, obviously the prices of all these cards are going to go through the roof. But if they aren't winning that much, then yeah, everything's gonna go down, except for maybe the collector's rares. That's always iffy. But I definitely would recommend waiting on those expensive ones. So I think Kaijus, I think Nibirus, and I think Super Polys are gonna be the bane of this deck's existence. If I were to try out this deck, I would definitely try putting in cards like Armory Call. You can add an equip spell from your deck to your hand, and then you can equip it to an appropriate monster. So that's really good with the equip cards that you got. Other than that, I think this deck is definitely worth out trying if you can afford it. But if you're like me and you don't want to overspend on decks, do not buy the expensive things yet. I would definitely recommend waiting and just testing the waters. So this was Plot Armor Cards. If you liked my material today, please like, comment, and subscribe. And oh my goodness, look at the time.
It's time to do.